Welcome to a Community Partners interview where we explore the organization's opportunities and resources that look to make change in our daily lives. I'm your host, Sean Pickard, and you're listening to Voices for Ability Radio, all abilities, all the time. Today, I'm joined by Adrienne Patterson. Adrienne is the spokesperson for Art on the Brain, presented by BIST and Tangled Arts, and has been an Ontario educator for many years, both as a teacher and administrator. Her specialization is in special education, and in the course of her work, she was assaulted repeatedly over a period of time by special needs students and sustained injuries. For the last decade, Adrienne has been on an extensive healing and recovery journey through traumatic brain injuries and post-traumatic stress disorder sustained in the workplace. Through all of these challenges, she has gained a great deal of insight into how difficult recovery can be and what enormous resilience, dedication, work, and support it takes to achieve even small gains. Adrienne, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks, Sean. This is such an exciting opportunity to be talking a little bit about my story, but especially about art and the brain and this fabulous art show that's about to begin next week.
Oh, I'm really excited to learn more about the art show, what's going on, who are the people, things of that nature. But before we get there, talk to me about the Adrienne Patterson experience. Fill in some blanks for me, please. From educator to artist with a brain injury, how did you get to Art on the Brain?
Let's see. Long and Winding Road song comes to mind. As you mentioned in my bio, I'm an educator, and the injuries I sustained at work ended up being diagnosed as a brain injury. I sustained 2 concussions within a short period of time due to the injuries that happened at work. And I was trying to continue working on accommodations, which basically means I was getting some support at work while I was still healing to see if I could continue working. And became quickly evident that that wasn't working. And the particular student that had caused the head injuries, it almost happened again. So that was when I also felt like there was more going on than just the head injury. And it was soon after that I was also diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. So dealing with the 2 of those things concurrently was a very messy and difficult journey at the beginning. And I went through a variety of different treatments and a lot of hard work and a lot of rest and time to heal. That is now 12 years ago. So although I still suffer from many of the symptoms, they are definitely much better managed as I have a number of treatments that I go to my medical providers for. And there's a lot of things that I've had to do and rearrange in my own life in order to be able to get back out there and do some things of meaning, which is where my journey is now. I do a lot of advocacy for different organizations, one of them being BIST. So how I found my way to BIST, the Brain Injury Society of Toronto, was actually through an opportunity I had with the Toronto Acquired Brain Injury Network. I was a keynote speaker for them back in 2024. And through that presentation, I showed that one of the things that was really healing for me, and I also now call it my gift, for whatever reason, the brain injuries really unleashed something new for me. I may have been a creative person or creative thinker prior to these injuries, but for some reason, art seemed to want to pour out of my body. So that is where I call it both a healing piece of my journey, but also a gift, because over time and lots of practice with dabbling with creative things and painting, I now actually do get some custom work, but I make a lot of things that go along with the advocacy work as well. So in my presentation at the Toronto Network, I had shown some of my art and donated a piece of my art as part of my presentation. And that one was a brain, but it looked like a tree. So it indicated growth. Because of that, Candace, who is the director of BIST currently, she was there at that presentation, and also the Toronto Acquired Brain Injury Network said, "Oh, Adrienne, you have to go and get to know the people at BIST and be part of the art show because it's a great fit." And that was an exciting opportunity for me to be able to continue to advocate, but also be part of a community. And that's what I felt from BIST, was being accepted into an art show, even though I haven't been part of a lot of the programming at BIST, as I don't live in the city. So that's another thing that's really great about this art show, is you can be pretty much anywhere in Canada, and as long as you can get your art to BIST somehow. And there are some mechanisms that BIST sometimes helps facilitate as well for participants, that your art then shows up and can be in the show. And it's a little bit different every year.
BIST is quite the community, isn't it? Very welcoming and helpful. So very happy to see they're doing that with the art show here. But you talked about past years. Let's get back to past years for a second.
Sure.
What were the themes on some of these past exhibitions? How did they go?
The show began in 2017, and it's always called Art on the Brain. That is the name of the show. But then each year has a different title or a different theme or a different, what has also started happening as a group exhibit. So I'm not as familiar with some of the names in the prior years because I wasn't part of those. I only joined last year, was my first year. But I am aware that it's only been 3 years that there's been a joint exhibit. That is where, on Fridays at BIST, there is a program called Freaky Fridays. It's a recreational, social, and arts programming. And some of the art show ideas and many of the participants come out of the people who participate in Freaky Fridays. And brain injury survivors are obviously a very diverse group. Some have perhaps more artistic talent, and some also may have functional issues that make it difficult to create art or fold paper. So it can be a really daunting task to get into art when you have these challenges. And yet an opportunity like Freaky Friday is a perfect opportunity where you have a supportive network that can help you, and that participants can help each other. And so that is where the group exhibit was born out of, was the Freaky Friday group. And then any participant who's partaking in the Art on the Brain show can also participate in the group exhibit. So that has now this will be the third year. So for example, 2 years ago, so 2024, all of the participants folded paper cranes. So there was thousands of paper cranes that got strung together and hung as a large exhibit among all of the other art pieces for the show. Last year was called a Brain Odyssey. So traveling through a brain injury is basically the topic last year. And then the group exhibit was called Come Fly With Me. So participants who wanted to be part of the group exhibit got a little paper template of a bird, and they had different shapes of different birds. And then you could embellish it with craft supplies or paint it or do anything you wanted to the bird to make it a creative display. You could even create your own bird if you wished. These ended up also strung together and hung throughout the gallery where we had the exhibit last year. And it really enhances a lot of the other art pieces that are there done by the individuals. It makes it a very interactive display. And it's such a great representation of the variety of talents and abilities of all of the participants, because it just ends up being this magical, colorful display of a community of people coming together to create art. So that's what's been exciting. This year, they took a little different approach to the group exhibit, especially. It is a somatic art activity, which brings mind and body together to help regulate the nervous system. So this year, participants were taught a technique, and then they were able to do that and turn it into a piece of art. So this year's art in the group exhibit are very, very different one from the other. So anybody who goes to see this art show is going to be very wowed by the diversity of what they're going to see of the group exhibit. And the title of this year's show is Boxing In, Breaking Out, Becoming Beautiful. And perhaps I'll let you ask some more questions to dig a little further, because I'm not sure where to go from here.
Well, actually, you're heading right where I wanted to go because, as you mentioned, boxing in, breaking out, becoming beautiful is this year's theme. But what does that mean? What are the artists expressing? Talk to me a little bit more about what's coming in and what is looking to be expressed.
The title talks or is indicative of the boxing in is representative of the constraints that people feel by having a brain injury. It can be such a weird experience to have a brain injury. So that's what the boxing in is representative of, is that constraint, that feeling of being boxed in, that feeling of being trapped within your body and within your brain, not really understanding the context of your world anymore. And it makes your world feel very small. So that's the boxing in part. The breaking out, to me, represents that healing journey, that sort of space between damage and figuring out symptoms and what kinds of treatments you need, that very messy journey at the beginning. But the breaking out part is where you start to notice what treatments or strategies or rest or modalities or community. There are so many different things that can enhance and help the brain heal. So that is the breaking out part, where you start to actually feel like I might not be in a box anymore. My life may still be difficult. I may still have all these challenges, but I'm starting to see a glimmer of hope or an ability to move through this. And that is where you really start to notice, at least I did anyway in my journey, that supportive nature of whether it's an organization that offers supports programming or resources to help heal, or the medical community, or the healthcare industry, or even the alternative healthcare, and then even just the things that I can do for myself. And one of those, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, would be the creativity and the art and the playing with color and texture really starts to help heal the brain, regulate the nervous system, and helps you feel like you're breaking out of that darkness or that box. And then the third part is that becoming beautiful. And by that, what that means to me is brilliance or opening or light, more space, that feeling that I don't think you ever truly heal from a brain injury, that everything's just magically fine. Even if you get to a point where you're functionally able again and have a very diverse and rich life, many people still very much struggle with symptoms, even if outwardly they look like they're fine. A brain injury is an invisible disability. People can't tell what's going on for you or how you might be struggling just by looking at you. And yet it can be very difficult. So that becoming beautiful is that feeling of opening, that feeling that I can actually contribute back, or I can dig back into my life in a different way than I've been able to as I've been really caught up in the healing process. So to me, becoming beautiful just really represents that ability to feel like my life is very different than it was prior to the head injury, and yet there are moments of joy and beauty and connection that can be had. So I think that's what it's really talking about, is the phases that you go through in healing a brain injury. And those phases aren't distinct. They somewhat roll in through each other. And you can also cycle back to not being very well, especially if you don't adhere to treatments or give your brain adequate rest or nutrition, etc. So it's going to be exciting to see how all of the different artists interpret that theme and what comes out of that. And I have had a sneak peek at some of them as we've been setting up the art show that will begin soon. So I think it's going to be really interesting for the public to come and take a look at what brain injury survivors can create, especially when you've got a really interesting topic to try to think about how to make your creation fit the topic, but how it also illustrates your own journey as an individual brain injury survivor and artist.
I love that. I love it, Adrienne. And maybe it's just me, maybe I'm wrong here, but the becoming beautiful aspect of this, what I'm reading in my mind, it's that person who stands up and is going, hey, this is me, baby. You don't have to like it, but you do have to live with it. So, yeah, I love that. Taking ownership again.
Yep, I would agree. Absolutely. My own, I'll give you a little sneak peek into my own little exhibit that I made is I made some 3D brains out of paper mache. And the first one is literally sitting in a box and it looks very ugly and battered and bruised and shriveled, and it does not look like a healthy brain at all. And the expression that I've made them into little caricatures. So I've kind of used a bit of a humorous comic twist this year. So that poor little brain looks very unhappy to be in that box. And what I was trying to create with the little caricature was how awful it felt to feel like that and to feel so scared, unaware, and unhealthy and not really knowing what to do. So that's what I tried to use, a humorous version of what does it feel like to feel like you're literally being crushed and like life is caving in around you. And then into the next phase, the breaking out, I think of breaking out as an egg. I think of a little chick trying to come out of an egg, or even a butterfly trying to come out of a cocoon. That's a very messy, difficult, yucky process. And yet look at what can come out of that breaking out is health, growth, renewal, rejuvenation. So then my last little brain that I built is a nice pink, fleshy, healthy brain who's very beautiful with long eyelashes and very plump and healthy looking. So it was my little twist on those different phases of how it felt to go through that. And I think one of the things that helped me heal as well, besides art, is my warped sense of humor. So that's why I tried to kind of weave that in this year as well by trying to do both.
Oh, if I show up at the show, Adrienne, I might have to, change some of your signage here, right? The first box with the battered brain would be Monday morning, and then the nice pink brain would be Friday night, right? So
perhaps.
Perhaps. But we talked a little bit about what you've got going on. You're using some paper mache. What about the other artists in this exhibition? What are people using to express themselves? What are the mediums you're seeing coming in?
It's quite a wide variety this year, and I haven't even seen it all. The group exhibit piece is primarily paper and yarn, but then each individual artist took that in a different direction, and some of them have some pretty interesting embellishments on them, some painting, some different craft supplies. So they all look very, very different, both in size, texture, and color. So each one is going to take a little bit of time to take a look at, which is what's really exciting. I'm seeing some paper being formed into different shapes like books. I'm seeing people utilizing some black light to take a look at what's been painted and hidden within the books that have been made out of paper that are on the shelves, which I can speak to in a minute because the gallery we're in is very unique, but I can table that for a moment. There is photography. There is canvas art. Someone actually used a cardboard box and did an incredible pen drawing on the inside that you have to get up really close to take a look and experience that piece of art. Canvas painting, other different little models and different, I would say mixed media is probably the biggest predominant theme. There's just such a wide variety. It's almost hard to speak to all of them, but that's what's really exciting is that it really turned this on its head this year. It's a little different, which is great.
Sounds like there's a lot going on there. Now,
there is.
We've spoken a bit about the theme. We've talked about what people are trying to say and the mediums they're using to express it. But let's step back for a second, Adrienne. Let's talk about what art does for the brain. And for lack of a better term, how can arts and crafts help heal a brain injury?
That would be really complex. And if I was a neurologist, I could probably get way more in depth. But what I am most aware of is engaging in anything creative. And you don't have to be good. You don't have to be an artist. It is the act of leaning in and trying something new. It is the act of creating something that allows our nervous system to calm, to heal, to regulate. And especially when you're doing this type of thing in community with others, you also get the additional support of the community, the feeling of being connected. Because if there's one thing that a brain injury certainly does, is it doesn't matter what kind of personality you went in with, it is a very isolating, difficult journey to go through to try to figure out who am I now. And I find that creative process allows you a place where you can play. And play is so important in our lives for our own mental health anyway, that being able to play with creative supplies or things that are colorful, things that are tactile, all of those allow us to really be more mindful and be in the moment. And that is what is so hard, I would say, in our society these days, is everything is so busy, everything is so interconnected, everything is so stressful and fast. Producing or making art, the product really is not important. It is the act of going through the process. And it does. It's a mindful activity. It allows you to calm and to create and to let that brain rejuvenate, which would therefore, then you can talk about neuroplasticity. Anytime you try anything new or different, even if you're not successful, you are creating new neural pathways, which means you're healing your brain. It means you are expanding your abilities. And I think that that's what that speaks to, is being able to create, whether you're doing it individually or not. It's helping a lot of areas of the brain. But more importantly, I also feel it really supports mental health, because there is that satisfaction of knowing that I made something.
And that goes a long way. That satisfaction, that is very, very important to an art. And let's talk about some of the artists. Without sharing any, don't identify anyone with. How has this exhibition helped move artists forward? What has it done for some people?
Well, for example, I know in speaking with Candace, especially for the year that I wasn't there, the cranes that they were making in 2024, there were some people that really couldn't fold the paper. So, of course, that can be very frustrating when you want to participate in an activity, but you aren't physically able to do that due to your level of injury. But being in an environment where you have others to support you doesn't mean that you can't still participate in the activity. So there are some artists that really need extra supports, but they are still capable of telling you what colors they like, what they might like to do, or with somebody else's hand, guiding their hand, might still be able to learn a new skill like folding paper. I've seen it get really exciting when people observe each other's art and get excited about talking about why they did it. Last year, talking to a lot of the artists, they were even just talking about the things that they were making at home and little interesting garden displays that they were making out of found materials and junk, and that they were making this colorful display in their backyard so that it became a Zen space for them to sit and rest when their brain was overwhelmed. I've seen there are professional artists that are in this particular group, and that's what they do. They did it before their injuries, they've done it through their injuries, and they continue to be professional artists. So we certainly have a wide range of ability and techniques and even interest in the actual art. But seeing what artists of all levels create is what really makes the art on the Brain Art Show so magical, is knowing that it's representative of the entire community. You don't have to be the professional artist to belong. You can be someone who just wants to participate. And there is an entry level for everyone.
That entry level is so important as well. But let's talk about this exhibition for a second, because it's coming up very soon.
Yes.
Will there be judging at this exhibition? Best in show, most interesting nightmares, things of that nature. Will there be judging?
Typically, that's not part of the art on the brain show, but it certainly is a quirky, interesting idea that maybe we could roll in. We'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, possibilities for next year. You never know.
You never know.
But other opportunities, let's talk about art, right? Everyone loves a good art show. You can see something different. You can see something that maybe even find something that really speaks to you. So will there be an opportunity for people to buy any of the art?
Some of the artists choose to allow their pieces to be for sale. Some choose not to. So there is the opportunity to purchase some if someone wished. And on the BIST website, once the show is fully uploaded, it will show a lot of the pieces already online. So you'll be able to see what's available and what its cost is and how you connect with the artist to purchase it should you wish. You can go to the art show and you will see all of that same information there. Last year, there were QR codes with each of the pieces of art that you could just use your phone and it would give you the information that you needed about the artist, their bio, what their piece was made of, and some other details, and then if it's available for sale or not.
Very nice. So all that information is available there, and you can see it all at the show. Excellent. Now, we've talked a lot. What's the theme? What are people expressing? What are the mediums that people are using? Things of that nature. But here's the big question, Adrienne. What is the one thing everyone needs to know about art on the brain?
That it's a magical display of inclusivity, color, and community.
A magical display of inclusivity, color, and community. I love it. Now, for important details, Adrienne, where and when is the exhibition happening? How do folks get tickets?
Well, I will tell you all of that, but I will first just say it's at a very unique location this year, which is why we're seeing some different pieces of art. It's at Tangled Art Gallery, which is Art Plus Disability. They are a gallery that support artists with disabilities. That's exciting that something like that even exists. So I'm very excited to be a part of this. They are at 401 Richmond Street West in Toronto. We are in Suite 124, which basically is in the middle of the building. It's a little bit of a maze to wander around to get to the art gallery, but there's signage and there's little maps on the wall as well to help you find Suite 124. And this year, where we get to display our art within the gallery is in a unique room that they have set up as shelves. So all of the shelves are the same dimension. So artists this year were challenged by having to create art that fit the space. Whereas in past years, you could create pretty much what you wanted as long as it fit the size of the overall gallery. And it could be hung or placed or put on a shelf. But this year, it is strictly on shelves. So we really had to be mindful of the dimensions and how easy it would be to see something on a shelf because these shelves go floor to ceiling. So that is also going to add to the artistry and magical viewing of these pieces, because it will be a floor to ceiling display that it will take you quite a while to walk around. It's in a small space, but to see everything in each of those little cubbies and see what the artists have done, it's very unique. There's a lot of detail I'm noticing this year, which is really exciting. So it's at the Art and Disability on Richmond Street in Suite 124, held by BIST, June 6th to the 30th. That is how long the exhibit is there. And the hours that you can go in to see it are the hours that Tangled has. And that is Wednesday to Saturdays, 12 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it is closed on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So you can only view it Wednesday to Saturday. You don't need a ticket. You can just go. It's free. Come check out our fabulous art.
Sounds good. Now, if people are looking for more info, let's make sure everyone has this. How do they get it? Are we talking 1-800 number, website, plain towing a banner? How do people get more info?
Go to the Brain Injury Society of Toronto website and you will find everything you need right there. You can also find BIST on Instagram and Facebook, and you will see the brightly colored social media campaign that's on the website and in all of those other social media areas that say Art on the Brain, boxing in, breaking out, becoming beautiful. And it's a very colorful display icon. So once you see that, it has all the details you need on it.
Excellent. Go to the BIST website for more information, ladies and gentlemen. And Adrienne, that is all the time we have for today. Would you like to say goodbye to the folks at home?
I sure would. Thank you, everyone, for your opportunity and for listening in. And we hope to see you at the art show.
Thank you very much, Adrienne. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Adrienne Patterson, the spokesperson for Art on the Brain, presented by BIST and Tangled Arts. That's all the time we have for today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Sean Pickard. Until next time, bye for now.